So yesterday's hike outside was a time to reflect on good things. Today's tea on the balcony is time to reflect on things that are not quite so good. Specifically, the resurgence of Nazism and neo-Nazism as ideologies in politics, and the rise of some very unlikely Nazis among a population whose members really ought to have known better. But unfortunately, Nazism and neo-Nazism and all its derivatives are very, very insidious. And conservatives of every type are incredibly vulnerable to being recruited. Yeah. First of all, I'd like to establish a fact that Nazism is not men in Hugo Boss uniforms and coal scuttle helmets riding on dinosaurs with freaking lasers. That is not Nazism. It is not a look, although it tends to generate a paramilitary look or a wannabe military look. No, Nazism is more a set of ideas. A set of selfish, self-serving ideas which are very often founded on quite literally nothing more than wishful thinking and fantasy. Yeah. And we should all be very deeply concerned about the prevalence of these ideas within our society, because they are very bad ideas. And the first of these ideas is that we, not me personally, but we, the collective group of marks being recruited into Nazism and its derivatives, are somehow victims of a conspiracy. A conspiracy by outgroups. Communists, racial and ethnic minorities, feminists and other women, sexual deviants of every sort, all working together. Unions, labor unions and trade unions, all working together to undermine me, the special person who deserves a much more exalted position in society than the one that I've got, obviously. Yeah. Yeah. And it's not my shortcomings, and it's not a corrupt system headed by powerful people at the top. It's a conspiracy of the people at the bottom to hold me back. Yeah. And it's amazing the number of people who fall for that. Amazing and frightening. The second big principle of Nazism and neo-Nazism is the idea that there is a hierarchy of races, and that certain races do not fit in that hierarchy. And so those races don't belong anywhere. But the ones that do fit in the hierarchy are arranged in a scale from the master race, that's the chosen people, to the administrative race, that's the intermediate race, and then at the bottom there is the slave race, or the slave races, plural. And then below that there are the subhumans, most of whom are also part of the aforementioned conspiracy. Yeah. And a person's race can change on this scale of hierarchy, depending on the necessities of the political climate. Groups that yesterday were subhuman are today co-master race, and groups that were once co-master race are looked at as either slave or subhuman. Yeah, it doesn't have to make sense. It just has to fool people who want to be fooled. People who want to be told how much better they are than everybody else. And that is the secret of Nazism. Convincing the most lazy, ugly, useless individuals that they are somehow superior to the people that they try so desperately to look down upon. And that there's actually a scientific basis for it, or at least a religious basis. Because religion always plays an important role. Whenever science and ideology collide, religion is brought in to justify ideology at the expense of science. Yeah. And yes, the Nazis had what they called Jewish science, which was things like evolution and human sexuality, things like that, which they abolished and stamped out. And today's neo-Nazis, they have other forms of science as well that they stamp out, because it's not real science, because it's not divinely ordained. Now, but again, Nazism goes back to telling you that you are superior, telling you that you are better than others, telling you that you are the victim of, as I said again, a conspiracy of your inferiors who are all plotting against you. And they are coming to get you. And it is amazing and frightening, the sheer number of people, otherwise decent people, who will buy into this kind of bullshit. It is deeply disturbing. But it's cold out, and I'm going back in. Nazism and neo-Nazism will always tell you that you are superior, not by virtue of anything you've actually done or accomplished, but simply by virtue of your being the right race. So you don't have to make any effort towards self-improvement. Nazism tells you that you are the living embodiment of human perfection already. Even if you are morbidly obese and live your life in a collapsing recliner, shoveling your face full of Doritos and Pop-Tarts and screaming at your mommy to bring you another super big gulp. Even if you do spend your day sitting in front of that television set, alternating between Fox News and the porn channel, jacking off in public, or at least in front of the rest of the family, you are still the living embodiment of perfection and don't have to do a damn thing to improve yourself, because you've already achieved perfection. The reason that you have failed at life is not because you are stupid, useless, and lazy. It's because there's an elaborate conspiracy against you personally. And that conspiracy is being run by the communists, the feminists, the gays, the sexual deviants. It's also being run by the Mexicans, the Negroes, and the illegals. And depending on which era you're in and which area you're in, it's also being run by either the Jews or by the Arabs. Either way, it's somebody you can blame for your failings and shortcomings, instead of actually making some effort to improve yourself. And as for the fact that you don't have a girlfriend, well, that's again down to the feminists plotting against you. Couldn't possibly be the fact that you're just ugly and disgusting and repulsive as a human being. Yep, the solution to all your problems is to persecute an outgroup until they give back the power and privilege that is rightfully yours. It's not to improve yourself because, well, you've already achieved perfection. Now you just have to get rid of those conspirators that are plotting against you and standing between you and the greatness that you were meant for. That is how Nazism recruits people. That's how neo-Nazism recruits people. That's how the modern ultra-right wing recruits people. It's not anything that you're doing wrong. It's not anything that's wrong about you. It's not anything that's wrong about your thinking or your approach to life or anything like that. It's a conspiracy against you that is being run by all the people that you have been told to hate and fear. That's why you haven't achieved the greatness that you deserve. It's not because you're lazy and can't show up for work. It's because your boss is being controlled or is part of a conspiracy that is plotting against you, and that's why you got fired. It's not because you couldn't be bothered to show up for work. Not at all. It's because there's a conspiracy against you. Yeah. Yep. That is exactly how the modern alt-right recruits. It picks people who can't accomplish anything for themselves, and it encourages them to blame an outgroup for all their own personal failings. Which is why incels and right-wingers go together so perfectly. Yeah. Yeah. And it's why they are so successful at recruiting among the unemployed and the underemployed. Because nobody wants to blame either themselves or somebody powerful for their problems. It's much safer, much easier to blame somebody weak, powerless, and unimportant for either your failings or the failings of the right-wing government that you support unquestioningly and unconditionally. The same government that promises to fix the problems that, if you look closely, you'll see they created. Yeah, they created the problem. So, yeah, blaming minorities, it's not going to help you. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why poor people vote conservative. Because ultimately, yeah, conservatives create the problems, and then conservatives tell you that they're the only ones who can save you from the problems they created. And the best way to save you is to blame an outgroup. Usually a liberal, a communist, a gay person, or whatever. Yeah. It's all very sad and pathetic. But that's right-wing politics today. Sad, scary, pathetic. So it appears that we have a little praying mantis here. Hello, mantis. You stay safe, okay, buddy? All right.